new to the Pantheon. I'm your host, Ray, and today we're looking at Nobody, a 2021 film starring Bob Odenkirk, a man and a person and a character who we didn't suspect would be this great at an action film. If you remember his films in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and his comedy roles in the past, he's not a person you would ever picture in this role. In fact, he spent 2 years leading up to this movie getting into shape to play the character, to pull it off. It was such an inspiration to the director that the director himself got into shape while making in the film too. So this is something to behold in. It had 4 delays because of the pandemic. It finally got released, depending on where you are, on February 26th or April 1st or April 2nd. But basically, it's been a year since it's released, and I'm grateful for watching it and happy to say that I enjoyed this film immensely. Odenkirk spent 2 years getting into shape to play this role of Hutch, a man who is a married man who is in his old profession was an auditor. He worked for the Russians, similar again to John Wick. You actually worked for the government, and if you did wrong, something similar to John Wick, if he comes to visit you, you were eliminated. So there are your similarities with having John Wick here, and he has a set of skills like Taken that makes him a unique and dangerous man. I enjoyed this because he's been so out of the loop, and getting back into shape and getting back into the fold. He gets his cuts, he gets his bruises, he gets his stabbings. I mean, this is a guy that's very grounded in terms of visceral reality. I mean, he's an assassin, elite killer, but he's been so out of it, he's rusty. But as he fights and gets bruised and battered, I mean, it's unlocking his darker side, his demons coming out, and that's what makes this really interesting to watch. It's a good character study. It's a socialistic study of what's going on. The certain characters I also have issue with because of casting choices, but then the reasoning behind it is very clear. Connie Nielsen, who is the Queen of Themyscira, who plays Gal Gadot's mother in Wonder Woman and the Justice League movie. So she's no slouch. She's played action films. She was in the Ice Harvest. She was in Gladiator. She's done some roles where she understands action. She understands being a very powerful and strong woman. So taking a role that's very, 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 very small and not at all have any action is troubling. But she took the role knowing that it's a very small and throwaway role. But she took the role because it has a potential for being a franchise, and that on her part is brilliant because she can see the dollar values behind that. So good for you. If this gets picked up for a sequel, because now that her character is more in the loop, it could be the potential for being like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith because she sewed him up. She knew how to sew him up in the movie. So there's something about her, even though she's a realtor. And again, she's part of this grind of a life where is domesticated with a wife and kids, and it's this suburban lifestyle, and it's the repeated grind of work. And she's very happy in doing that. And at no point in this film do we see her being anything but attached to that lifestyle. But now that this movie's opened up a new side of Hutch, the Bob Odenkirk's character, and they're still a married couple, I can see Connie Nielsen getting more involved. Maybe not so much as like the Mr. and Mrs. Smith type roles, but having her getting involved with some action sequences, I can see that happening. And the fact that she was able to sew him up and without flinching suggests there's something to it that we don't know yet. So that's kind of exciting. So there are things in this movie that that they can explore in the sequels. I don't know if I mentioned this. It's produced by David Leitch, who is the producer of John Wick. It's directed by Ilya Nailshuler. He is the director of Hardcore Henry. I haven't seen a lot of his films, but the films that he's done that I've seen, he has a great. He's a visionary director. Like all his films that I've seen so far, which is not a lot. I mean, most of his films are overseas, and I don't have access to. I don't have access to see all of his movies. But Ilya Nailshuler, if you can see his movies hit, especially in the last 5 or 6 years, he's really amassed an interesting collection of film film biography or filmography, and he is one of the few. He's one of the few cutting edge or talented visionary directors or just auteur directors, if you will. Now, of course, this wasn't written by him. It was written by Daniel Kolstad, a man who wrote John Wick. He's actually the creator of that John Wick universe. He wrote the original one and the screenplay for the second one, and the characters that it's based on is in number 3. So I don't think he didn't really write 3, and he's not really writing number 4. But his characters of John Wick are in 3 and 4, and when John Wick 4 comes out, we are definitely going to be reviewing that to close off our Wick Wednesdays series. But until then, we're going to be reviewing all kinds of cool stuff like Mortal Kombat, Expendables, Atomic Blonde, the Equalizer films, like just a bunch of really cool and strong action films that some have messages, some are just over the top, but they're all on the concept of having like a killing machine or a person or entity or group who are skilled with a set of skills like Taken that can really do damage to you. And that's the idea of the Wick Wednesdays. He did most of his own stunts, and just the choreography of the violence and just doing it all is a testament to this man. Because he's not this is Better Call Saul. This is not a guy who even fits that mold. So this is what makes this movie so. It's what makes this movie so remarkable. And Odenkirk really devoted and put the time in, and it really shows. It's worth a watch. Yes, there's undertones of stripping away masculinity and what that means, and their approach to it. It means whether you're a person who's in the gun violence or the gun control issues or whatever it is, which is kind of negative. If there's a political aspect to it that you're looking at it, I wish you wouldn't. It's not. It shouldn't be important, and they hopefully should make just a fun movie and not be political. The overreaching message of this is that he was only half a human being. He has to embrace his yin and yang. Basically, he has to have his good and his bad side, his peaceful side and his chaos side to become one, to become a whole person. And find a balance in his own life to be happy, to be whole. And if that is the mentality of how you're looking at this, then the movie is succeeded in doing that. It's just that when he was being the domesticated person who's found balance, he's found a life of being in the routine of the everyday, where they have the motif of like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Thursday he's throwing out the garbage, and every Thursday he misses the garbage truck. He does pull-ups. He's impotent with his sex life. So like there are things in it that's the grind is over and over and over again. And then of course his darker side makes him more potent, more alive, more whole. So in those sense, those are the messages that are negative. Those are the things of what it portrays, of what is acceptable, what it portrays of what's normal, what it portrays how to be a man. These are mixed messages that are not positive. It's actually negative. It can be harmful, and I can't even defend it because it's just sort of wrong. But as an action movie, I enjoyed it, and the themes of the action movie is fine, and coming into his own is sort of fine. And then just the sequences, and it being so close to John Wick, and if you're missing the John Wick-esque life or vibe, this movie kind of gives you a little. This helps you get ready for the John Wick movie, the train that's coming your way, and I like that. I mean, I really do like that, and but yeah, it is a mixed message bag. So if you can shut off your brain over the messages on it and just like enjoy the ride, the movie is aces in my book. But there are things wrong with it. But that being said, if this becomes a franchise or a sequel, I do hope to see Connie Nielsen getting involved with it. I do like to explore the world of of Hutch, Bob Odenkirk's character, and in the world around him. And how he's and his family, because RZA, Christopher Lloyd, they were amazing. They're introduced late in the movie, which makes me kind of hope for a sequel down the road. Now, RZA only had like 4 days of shooting, and according to Ilya Naushuler, is was no slouch. I mean, he loves action movies. He loves martial arts, Chinese martial theaters. He directed an episode of Iron Fist. He's part of the Wu-Tang Clan. He directed and wrote The Man with the Iron Fist. The Man with the Iron Fist movies. So I mean, he understands the martial arts. He understands action movies. He has a very vast knowledge of it. Christopher Lloyd is amazing in this film. He had IBS in them, and he didn't know he was going to be doing this movie at all while shooting this. But he's a trooper, and there's a lot about this movie that's interesting. I wish I haven't had time to listen to the commentary. I heard they made the commentary about 6 months before the release of the movie, so they didn't know how the movie was going to be interpreted, like once it gets released in theatrical release, or how it was going to be received, or box office numbers. It's my understanding. But I would love to hear the commentary from both the director and the star of this movie, because Odenkirk. The idea was birthed from Odenkirk initially. He had a break-in into his house. He was able to trap the thieves, or I think it was 2 burglars. He was able to trap them in his basement, and he called the cops. And while waiting for the cops, he thought about ways like, what could I have done differently? How could I have prevented this, or could I have stood up against these guys? And that's what gave birth to the idea of this film. And when Daniel Kolstad, who is the writer of the John Wick movies, he was very open to taking ideas from Odenkirk and from Ilya Nail-Schuler. And Nail-Schuler, who's done, which I mentioned at the top, he did Hardcore Henry. So he's, again, a visionary director. And Kolstad, who created John Wick and the characters of John Wick, he was extremely open to taking suggestions to help perfect the movie, to work with Odenkirk to make sure that it works around his abilities. And of course, Odenkirk put in the time. 2 years of his life was dedicated, like, daily, to get ready for this role. And so everything is called serendipitous, was all catered to get to this one point. And the efforts is seen on the screen. And when RZA and Christopher Lloyd really get onto the screen, or show up, they really just show up and they give it their all. And this movie, because of the efforts of all the stages that go into this, it sets, like the first John Wick, there's going to be a sequel. You just feel that it deserves to be a sequel, and I really look forward to seeing it. So on that note, I'm Ray. We'll see you next time. Take care.